Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Fraser Crawford coming to you live from Sacramento, California. And I'm Tim Gunn. Tim Gunn? Really? Make it work. Our top story today, a case of mad cow fever has broken out in the Sacramento area caused by... I'm not playing that music. In other news, this newscast brought to you live from an iPad. Why an iPad, you may ask? Well, there's a very good answer.
We're poor!
Only functionally, you understand.
Singles!
I have to pick all of this up. Now about the jumps. This all dates back to the hazy days of the summer in 2014. Man, that was so long ago I can't even remember. I went to a small camp at a place called Wofford University, which, for those of you that don't look at small towns on the eastern seaboard, is in South Carolina. It was hell. Totally disregard the fact that it was 100 plus degrees every day, filled with high schoolers and also filled with middle schoolers. That's not even why it was hell. But more on that later. The important thing is that my brother introduced me to a YouTuber named Swoozy, aka Adonde something. Was his last name? I don't know.
Because his identity is too important to name.
I fell in love with this guy. Platonically, of course. I'm married. What was important is that my brother and I finally had something to relate to. 15 plus years of animosity have been paved smooth almost overnight. It was like the US actually agreed to the Treaty of Versailles and the League of Nations did its job. Mothers and fathers are in the street going, "Oh, thank heavens for Woodrow Wilson, his many descendants, and his healthy constitution." Alternate realities are fantastic. But then, storm clouds started brewing over Europe not 20 years later. Honestly, anybody could have seen it coming. I mean, an economic crisis brought to you by a dictator, the formation of the Nazi Party. I mean, it might as well have been the imperialist regime that this guy predicted would lead to the First World War. You think I'm joking? He predicted everything 30 years before it happened. Read the book. The problems began when I was informed by the young blonde bimbo that I couldn't be as good as Swoozy. Why was this? Why? Why? Is it because I'm not black? Is it because I'm not handsome? Is it because I'm not good at video games? Is it because I don't have money?
It's because you're not funny.
Why you little? It all escalated very quickly. First, I took the Rhineland to assert my dominance among the European comedic hierarchy. The petty Frenchman and Englishman, played by my brother and my brother respectively, insisted I relinquish the title, so I marched into Czechoslovakia just to show off. Then I corralled Austria to my cause and took the rest of the Sudetenland, and at the gates of Warsaw in 1939 I stood proud and proclaimed I could be the next Swoozy. Obviously, none of this panned out well. Men were committed violently on both sides, though. France suffered terribly in the opening salvo, losing almost all of its credibility and reputation. In fact, so humiliating was its failures that its loss of its own country became a running joke amongst contemporary Americans for the next several generations. In fact, the jokes thrown around by stand-up comedians about France's loss are a lot like the jokes between two brothers that it basically was. "Hey, you snooty Americans, you do not know what you're talking about." Yes, this coming from the country that couldn't even keep a hold of its own capital. Jokes. But as Russia, Japan, and America were soon corralled into the war, real metal was placed against Germany's metal. Metal? Wait, do you mean like M-E-T-T-E-L? Oh. Did anybody get that? I'm worried that went over their heads. Oh, it's not them. I'm just concerned. I'm gonna change it. Too subtle word play. And so as the major powers came into play against Germany, something drastic had to be done. Hence this video, meant to be the flagship, the jet plane, the atomic bomb. Where's Albert Einstein? Now once again to the jumps in the editing. I can talk fast. In fact, listen to me recite this piece from Family Guy. Like you didn't have a motive, Lois? You all had a motive. Meg wanted a passport to get her twin sister out of the country, but the record wouldn't allow. But Meg didn't count on me figuring out she has no twin sister. And Meg herself was recently released from the sanitarium. That's where Chris came into the picture.
You got it all figured out. You couldn't leave well enough alone.
You won't shoot me, Chris. You don't have the stomach for it.
I don't know what you're talking about, Dad.
So see, my speed of diction is fine, but I still have to commit to this blocky frame jumping like some sort of virtual border jumper. Virtual border jumper. Now the rich white man is the butt of the jokes. Wait a moment. Now part of the reason for the shakiness is that I'm not good with the software yet. As I said, I'm on an iPad. I have a computer, but I'm on an iPad. Remember when I said I was on an iPad? Remember I was Tim Gunn and the newscast was coming to you from an iPad. Remember that? Remember that? Remember that? Who am I kidding? None of you remember that. Heck, I don't remember it myself. You know why? Because it wasn't me. It was Tim Gunn. I don't even know what I'm talking about right now. Let's sum up where we are right now. I know Swoozie. I like Swoozie. I'm married. Brothers' arguments can be compared to the World War and their defilement of humanity, but the point remains that even though I can speak quickly, I still need to use this editing software, which I'm just straight up not good at. Doesn't seem so bad on the surface, does it? But there is an altogether more sinister reason for me jerking off frames like this. Jerking off. Are you sure we didn't mean something else? You see, in my travels across YouTube and the realms of the living, I have noticed a pattern. Perhaps it is too subtle for the ordinary human mind to pick up on without my training. Or perhaps it's so damnably obvious that it's simply been written into our DNA. Well, if that's true, then the media's been gene breeding us, and here's why. See, my favorite YouTubers all have this great editing software. I don't. I have an iPad, so I have to artificially create my flow.
But Frasier, why artificially create your flow?
That's an excellent question, disembodied talking head. See, people like Susie and JonTron could just run one funny part of the anecdote into another funny part of the anecdote and joke into joke until it doesn't even become a story but just one massive punchline. Now that's not knocking punchlines. I love punchlines. The problem is, I can't do them like that. Now is any of this really a bad thing? Well, I don't think so, but imagine if this video was to go on the internet without any editing like it was back in the olden days. Hi there, I'm Midwestern Joe. I don't do any of that technology stuff. I just find that red button and press, and then I start talking. And then the video runs on and on and on, and I eventually get to my point, but slowly and convolutedly, a lot like the monologues in plays. Now, let's everybody be honest. Who reads those monologues in high school? I mean, Mercutio's rant about the fairies and Romeo and Juliet? Anybody? Kate's last speech in The Taming of the Shrew about the obedience of spouses? Any of y'all read that? Any of y'all English majors out there read that? Hey, wait a second, did we just make a comment on society? But seriously, think about how all that is combining to affect conversations today. Disregarding the fact that everything from food ads down to water cooler conversations are supposed to be based around humor. Wow, this Nature Valley nut bar is so nice, I'm gonna eat it while kayaking down Mount Everest! Has it not also become unspoken canon that you're supposed to run the jokes together with speed? Like, think about the get rid of cable commercials. Do they give you any time to muse on the fact that you just got mauled by a bear simply because you didn't get rid of cable? No, it's just get rid of cable. In fact, examples of how this is changing can even be found in modern TV, believe it or not. In one episode of The Simpsons, the memorable one where Homer gets his arms stuck in the vending machine so he can't go to the ballet with Marge, but she just thinks he skipped out on them. Well, in the beginning of that, they're watching TV and a guy is reading from a book, and he reads it something like this. He looked around the cafe, took a good long glare at the menu, and then ordered the same thing that he ordered every day. And the in-live audience goes, ha 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 ha, and all the Simpsons go, I don't get it. And Homer, to alleviate the situation, goes, maybe it's the TV. Darn it, TV, be funny! So is it now just a fact that if your humor moves fast enough, you can get up to 88 miles an hour, zoom backwards to 1955, and save the professor against all odds? I mean, that seems to be where it's going to me. But does anyone remember the old axiom, tragedy plus time equals comedy? I mean, come on, you played Portal 2, didn't you? You remember this. You're going down the elevator shaft and Wheatley's on the nanotech crew, tells you hold on for 5 more chambers and goes, you know the old formula. Comedy equals tragedy plus time. And you've been asleep for so very long. I guess it's actually pretty funny. You remember that. So if we're disregarding the formula, does that mean we're not as funny? Well, I don't think that's true. Have you seen Jim Gaffigan lately? That's definitely not what's happening. And his jokes don't run together, but they move pretty swiftly as well. He gives you a punchline and he immediately moves on to the next thing. The audience laughs 2.5 seconds later. It's fantastic. So does that mean that the formula is changing? Can you imagine if that happened to gravity? Someone would go up to Isaac Newton and be like, I'm terribly sorry, Mr. Newton, but your formulas are now defunct. Gravity moves sideways to accommodate the will of our space Nazi masters. And you know, Isaac Newton is like, damn Wolfenstein. Never actually played it myself, been meaning to learn. And as we come to a conclusion, I leave you with some food for thought. If the rest of his family's dead, how long do you expect to survive? There's Sherlock Holmes. There's Robert Downey Jr. as Doc. You don't know. Peace out. Bye, 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 bye.